welcome to another episode of In the Kitchen with Father Larry. Thanks for joining me today. It is October, and that means that we are rapidly coming up on one of my favorite seasons of the year. That would be Halloween. One of the great ways of celebrating Halloween is through the Mexican tradition of Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, which is a festival that typically lasts about 3 days long, starting on Halloween and going through the Feast of All Saints and then the Feast of All Souls, ending on November 2nd. If you are familiar with those Mexican traditions, you'll know that one of the most prominent parts of that celebration is folk art that features a lot of skeletons, skulls, things like that, that are symbols of our deceased ancestors that we Catholics think of as part of the communion of saints. We believe that the bonds that we form in life don't simply dissolve with death, but we remain connected to those that we've loved that have gone before us to the kingdom of God. And so during this festival, we remember all of those that we have lost, that have gone before us to God's kingdom, and we pray for them and we celebrate their memories. And one of the ways that that's traditionally done is with the tradition of sugar skulls. So that's what we're going to be making tonight. Sugar skulls. Ooh, scary. Wow, sugar skulls. Really, the only piece of special equipment you need to make sugar skulls on your own is a mold. And I'm using some silicone molds that I ordered from a big online retailer whose initials start with Amazon. And these are made of silicone. They're originally designed, I think, for making skull-shaped ice cubes. I mean, who wants ice cubes shaped like a skull? That's kind of crazy. What you want is skulls that are made out of sugar, and that's what we're going to be doing. So these come apart. They're in two sections. You can see here is the face or the front part, and here is the back part. Now you'll notice there are holes in those. That's not going to be a big problem because we're going to sit those flat while they are in the process of drying out, so don't worry about that. Okay, the only other critical thing that we need to make the sugar come together is a little bit of meringue powder. This is often sold in gourmet shops and hobby shops. It's used by people who are cake decorators primarily to make royal icing, which we'll actually be making later on, but it goes into the sugar to help the sugar set and firm up. So you'll see how that works in just a minute. So I'm going to lay out all the things that we need, and then we're going to get started. Okay, there's my handy bowl. We're going to start with about a half a cup of sugar, and then I'm going to add a half teaspoon of meringue powder, and then I'm just going to mix that together. Meringue powder is basically just powdered egg whites, and it's what's going to help the sugar hold together when we get ready to put it in the molds. Okay, next I've got a spray bottle here, and I'm going to mist just a little bit of water over the top, and then give that a quick stir. And we really want this to have the texture that's like damp sand. Not really wet, but definitely not dry. That's about what we're looking for. It just starts to clump up. You don't want the sugar to start dissolving yet. Okay, once we've got that done, then we will start filling our molds. And this takes a little bit over a tablespoon in each mold. You want to pack the sugar in so that it's packed pretty tight. Scrape the extra into the next opening. And almost done. Okay, and now we have the back ends of the skulls, and you can see that's just going to sit right on the countertop, so I don't have to worry about the sugar leaking out. Pack that in a little bit. And I think I've made just enough to make 4 of these. That one looks a little short. So I'm going to see if there's any extra. Get off of there. Okay. For my next set of 4, I'm trying something a little different. I've actually added some green food dye to the water I'm going to spray on the top. I want to give them a little bit of a green glow. So, see if I can get some green coloring to come out here. Don't want too much color because, as you will know, I am all about subtlety. Okay, that's kind of a mint green. That's about what I'm looking for. So now I'm going to fill up my second set. Okay, those are all set. All right, now to get these to dry out, you don't really have to cook, they just have to dry. I'm going to stick them in a warm oven for about 3 hours. You could leave them overnight if you want, but 3 hours is usually enough to get the water to evaporate and get them to dry out and be nice and solid. Okay, we'll be back in about 3 hours. You can just sit here and wait, and then we'll be ready to decorate them. Okay, our skulls are out of the oven where they've been drying, and now I'm just going to pop them out of the molds. Okay, there you can see there's one that's sort of the light green. I'm going with kind of a glow-in-the-dark effect there. Next one's out. They pop out really easily. That's the virtue of using silicone. Okay, and then we have the backs. They also just pop right out. Okay. Okay, there's still a little bit of blue dye on my fingers from putting the icing together. It looks like I've been voting in an Iranian election. Okay, let me just grab my royal icing. I've got some white royal icing that I'm going to use to glue the backs to the front. So I just put a little dollop of icing on them. And then just pop the back on. That needs a little bit more. Royal icing, when it dries like cement. Okay, and you can see that one comes together pretty nicely. I will assemble the rest of those and then we'll be ready to start decorating. Okay, I've got my skulls lined up. The fronts have been glued to the back with royal icing. Royal icing, once again, is just powdered sugar with a little bit of meringue powder or egg white and enough water to make it smooth and something you can squirt out of a pastry bag. And I have lots of colors that I've gotten together because sugar skulls require a lot of different bright colors, so I've got plenty of those. Purple, there's a blue one. Okay, and of course there has to be black. Now, if you want really bright colors, you really have to go with the gelled icing colors. If you use the little stuff that comes in little dropper bottles, it's never going to get dark enough because they're pretty diluted. Okay, first step is going to be to fill in the eye holes with a little bit of black icing so they actually look like skulls. And then a little dot in the nose. You see how that looks. And although I'm doing all kinds of different decorations on the outside, pretty much all of them are going to get black icing in the eye holes and in the nose. Okay, one of the things I've decided to try this time out is I have some little silver dragées, which I'm going to be putting in the eye holes, and you can see what that looks like once I get some of those in. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I like that. So I'm going to do the rest of those, and then I'll come back with the rest of the decorations. Okay, I've got the eyes and the noses done, and I really like those silver dragées in the eyes. I think that looks really spooky. Now I'm going to start working on the rest of the decorations, and I've previously done some of the sugar skulls in kind of a spooky Halloween style, but for this batch I'm really going for sort of a folk art Mexican look. So I'll be doing a lot of swirls and floral patterns and things like that. So I will get started on some of those, and we'll show you what I come up with once they are mostly done. Okay, our sugar skulls are complete. I've done what I can in terms of decorating. I am nothing like an expert with a pastry bag, especially when I'm trying to do really fine lines on a really small object, which is what these are, but I thought I would show you some of the ones that I've done and how they came out. First of all, the kind of spooky Halloween ones that I did earlier. You can see this one, I put a little bit of colored sprinkles in with the sugar, so you get a little bit of whimsical color on that. This guy has an actual spider on his head. Thought that was kind of fun. Okay, here's another kind of spooky one with some green eyes and kind of a pinhead, dot head effect on the top. This one is a little more conventional spooky skull. The black and the red on his head remind me a little bit of like the candle in the Chianti bottle kind of drips there, so maybe I could put like a miniature candle on his head. And then for some that are more of a folk art style with a little bit more color, here's one of the ones with a little bit of green in the sugar. And you can see I've got some pointed ears on him, and again a little bit of dot effect on the heads. And then this guy has got kind of a wreath of gold flowers on his head. Marigolds in particular are traditional for a Dia de los Muertos, so I was kind of going for sort of a marigold kind of look there. I think that worked out pretty well. And then this is more of an abstract style with kind of a rainbow of colors on the back of his head. And then this one may be my favorite. This has got kind of a big flower on the top of his head and some red stripes on the sides. Okay, so that's a little bit about how to make your very own sugar skulls. Really the only special equipment you need are these skull molds, which you can buy online. If you want something that's a little easier to decorate, get a little bit larger mold. These are smaller, they're each about the size of a golf ball, and so decorating them is a little bit more of a challenge. But between the silicone molds and a little bit of coloring gel for the royal icing, they're not terribly hard to make, and they're a lot of fun. It's a good activity you could do with your kids to talk about the communion of saints and reverencing those who've gone before us to God's kingdom. So there's still a couple of weeks left before the end of the month and the Dia de los Muertos celebrations and Halloween. So there's still time to make your own. Until next time, I see you in the kitchen. Thank you for joining me. If you are watching the video on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button there so you'll get notified when I'm posting future episodes. Thanks for being with me in the kitchen, and God bless.